Hey everyone, I am Nathaniel Rufflejantz, and this is Prime News. So our first story of the day, the lead story is a bit of a rumor, but a weird one that is only believable because it's Konami. So if you ever wondered why Contra from the NES and various games from Genesis have never really appeared on Virtual Console or any other sort of re-release, these are Konami titles that are very well endowed in the gaming community, in the annals of gaming history, and a lot of us would like to play. You always could see like Contra 2 and stuff like that, but the OG Contra and other Genesis titles have never been reissued or never released on Virtual Console, and apparently this is reportedly rumored to be due to bureaucratic reasons. And you never want to hear that. You never want to hear that bureaucracy is getting in the way of us just playing video games. But that seems to be the case here, at least according to a former anonymous employee. Now, that's why we're calling this a rumor, because it cannot be verified. The moderators at Reset Era have gone ahead and approved this news to come out on their forums from a specific user who I will also not name. I'll have a link down to the thread in the description below. But I'm going to read exactly what the original post in this thread says, so you guys get the full scope of what's happening with these games. He told me that before the Wii's Virtual Console went live, Nintendo sent certain third-party publishers a list with all of their previous games and asked which of those games they wanted to have reissued on the Virtual Console. The reason why Contra was never added to Virtual Console? A clerical error. Someone forgot to checkmark the game on the list before sending it back. Years later, a person in Konami's digital department wanted to correct this error and resubmit the list to include Contra and the Genesis titles. But before that could happen, that person was no longer in a position to go forward with it. And then they go on to kind of speculate a little bit, and it says, presumably the reason Contra is not in the NES Classic is because Nintendo just worked with the games that had been approved back in 2006, and asking again, specifically in the state Konami is in now, would probably present more bureaucratic hurdles. So essentially, Contra and the Genesis games haven't been on Virtual Console or re-released in any form because they forgot to check a box, which is silly. And then when someone wanted to take care of it, again, years later, that person was removed from their position to have the say to do it. This is crazy, and you wouldn't think this, you would figure Nintendo could just pick up the phone and call and ask, but this is Konami we're talking about, right? This is the Konami that went out of their way to try to eliminate and erase the work and the reputation of Kojima. You guys know him, Metal Gear Solid fame. And we also know that they have been focusing on pachinko machines, aka gambling machines. In fact, we have a ton of them, actually. If you go to any local casino, you're going to see a bunch of Konami gambling machines. That's kind of where their bread and butter is for where they make their money. And I'm kind of at a bit of a loss for words, because we got other Konami games, right? Contra 2, but the original Contra and other Genesis titles cannot come to Virtual Console because of this bureaucratic bullcrap. Again, rumor, we can't verify any of this, but I'm sorry, because it's Konami, I am just going to assume this is true, because you know what? Konami does a lot of stupid things, and they really don't care about gamers at all. They have very little respect for their own employees. There's all these various reports. If you guys are curious, just search, Konami's treatment of employees, and you're going to find some absolutely nasty stuff out there from former employees about how Konami treated them, both when employed and when they wanted to leave and or were fired. It's not good. Konami just doesn't feel like a company that really cares about anything but the dollar sign, which then makes this weird, because you figure they're not making any money off Contra or these Genesis titles when they just sit in their library. So this should be a way for them to make more money. Who knows? This is Konami. I'm not going to repeat what Jim Sterling would say at this point, for those who don't know him, but it involves a certain F word. Anyways, we'll move on to our second story, and this deals with something very interesting, because Nintendo has not allowed achievements, like a system-wide achievement thing, to be around pretty much ever. Now, technically, the My Nintendo program, the My Nintendo rewards and all that stuff, when you go log in, there are technically achievements on the back end of My Nintendo, and they usually relate to the mobile games. They haven't really been implemented in a lot of 3DS or Switch titles. But they do technically exist, but then you can't access them locally on the platforms. You can't see them on your phone without logging in through a web browser. You can't see them on 3DS. You can't see them on Switch. So it's like they don't even exist. If you buy the platforms, you don't really even know about these. Well, here's the deal. It turns out that Minecraft, of all games, is confirmed to be getting achievements. And we're not just talking about any old achievements, right? Where in the past, third-party companies could add, local achievements to their game. They are being allowed to put achievements on the Switch version that are directly connected to Xbox Live. That's right. There are going to be 79 Switch-specific achievements attainable with your Xbox Live account while playing Minecraft on Nintendo Switch, and it will give you a total gamer score of 1,750 if you complete all 79 achievements. This is obviously interesting because before Nintendo can even put their universal, achievement system out there, if they even plan to do it, Xbox is already on Nintendo's platform offering their achievement system. It's interesting that Nintendo is allowing this because they would obviously have to approve of this kind of access for Xbox Live. We do know that they have allowed Xbox Live to be present specifically for Minecraft. Nintendo hasn't had any issues with that. And it does make you wonder if this is building towards a potential bigger relationship between Microsoft and Nintendo. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want that just for the hope of rare IPs coming back. But beyond that, I do think it's interesting because if Microsoft finds itself somehow out of the hardware business years down the road, is it possible that they're trying to make goody-goody with Nintendo here and Nintendo back with them to kind of merge them together in terms of their gaming aspirations? I don't know how that would work. Obviously, Nintendo's got their own online account system coming out that's separate from Xbox Live. Heck, maybe it can connect with Xbox Live. I have no idea. But this is just a very interesting thing to note that Minecraft is getting Xbox Live achievements on Nintendo Switch. Just crazy to me that that's even a thing coming out of my mouth in 2018. Moving on. This is actually interesting for me, even though I'm not subscribed to this. The MLB TV app apparently might be coming to Switch, and this is because a user on Reddit went to file a complaint about a blackout on one of their games. For those who don't know what that means, when you go to watch games on applications and stuff like that, even when I'm using my DirecTV Now app or whatever, sometimes you go to a channel that's supposed to be carrying the game, but there is what's called a blackout restriction for that sporting event, which basically means because that might be a national channel, you can't watch it on that channel because the local channels have all the rights. So as an example, say the game is on ESPN, I go to watch on ESPN, it potentially could be blacked out because the local rights to my sports team might be with Fox Sports Wisconsin, so then I have to go to Fox Sports Wisconsin to watch the game. It happens very, very rarely with cable TV, but it does occur. And this happens a lot with the MLB TV app and the NBA app and the NFL app and all that stuff because you can watch any game there is except for your local team because your local stations, radio stations, and TV stations have all the rights for your local team. That's one way that even though you buy the MLB TV package, if you live in Wisconsin and want to watch a Brewer game, you don't really need the MLB TV package because there's really only like 2 games a year you're going to be able to watch on it. Well, this person was going to file a complaint, I'm assuming because they were not living in that area and were getting blackout restricted. And when they had to file the complaint, they were told that they had to pick which device they are streaming from. And on that list, as you are seeing now, look at that, Nintendo Switch. And as we know, there is currently no MLB TV app even launched on Nintendo Switch. So what does this mean? Well, we've been getting a lot of interesting rumors about different apps potentially coming to Switch that stream content. From Twitch recently, now we have this MLB TV. It seems like these apps are at least in development for Switch in some capacity. Maybe they're going to be allowed to launch, in September of this year when Nintendo's launching their online account system. I don't know, whatever the case may be. It definitely sounds like soon. I don't know when, but soon Nintendo is going to finally allow MLB TV, NFL Network, most likely, Netflix, YouTube, all these different streaming companies to finally bring their platforms to Switch. And please, it feels weird in 2018. Again, another 2018 reference that we don't have this. Like, this is just strange. No achievements, but we're getting Xbox Live achievements. No, only Hulu, and we're not getting other streaming. This is just really weird. Anything that's not just about just purely playing games feels really weird on Switch at times. Here's another really weird story, and this, again, falls more in the speculation category, more so than a rumor, but it's really interesting. So, is it possible that Doom 2 is being announced at E3? Now remember, Doom came out on Switch, so there is obviously a high likelihood, especially since it's Bethesda, that Doom 2 could also be coming to Switch if and when it's happening. We're talking about the rebooted Doom, of course. And Bethesda's Peter Hines had this to say about the upcoming E3 in June. I couldn't give you any guesses as to what we're going to announce and when those games will be out. But I will say we have a lot of new stuff to talk about at E3. Whether or not folks realize it, this is the hell on earth time for us with E3. We are in the midst of so much planning and work for all of the content, but I'm really excited. I think we have a lot of stuff that folks are going to like. To my earlier comment, it's going to be a big mix of stuff that's all over the place. It's not going to be like one kind of game or genre. It's going to be a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas, and hopefully there is something in there for everybody. Now, on the surface, you just listening to that, you guys might not have caught a clear reference to Doom. And that is hell on earth. Hell on earth. That specific wording when he says, this is the hell on earth time for us with E3. Hell on Earth is the exact subtitle of Doom 2, the original Doom 2. So with Doom being rebooted in 2016, even if the subtitle of Doom 2 is not Hell on Earth, it would still be an obvious reference to Doom. Hell on Earth is a very specific terminology to throw in there that could potentially be hinting at Doom 2. Again, speculation. This is not confirmation Doom 2 is coming. However, it does make a lot of sense for Doom 2 to be in the works. The Doom reboot in 2016 was highly successful. We are now getting 2 years past that. It would make sense to start hearing rumblings of a sequel to that game coming from Bethesda. They're like the perfect studio to be handling it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but it definitely sounds like we could be seeing some sort of Doom 2 stuff at E3 and potentially releasing later this year. Hell on Earth is just a pretty damn big coincidence and reference to be making in statements, and I doubt it was by accident, because it's just way too specific to fit that phrase in there. Moving on, Nintendo has actually teamed up with Scrum Ventures. I've never heard of them until now, but they are based out of San Francisco, and they are teaming up with them to do something that Nintendo has really never done before, and that is to scout startups working on new ways to play using the Switch. They're looking for small groups inside bigger companies or university researchers developing new tools to improve the Switch. This includes components, sensors, chips, or other add-ons. Now, Nintendo has traditionally always either looked internally for this stuff, or they have looked specifically to huge companies. You know, like, oh, if we're going to do some sort of specialty thing in the medical world using our Wii remotes, we're going to team with this X big company, or we're going to team with this big company. Like, all these contracts out there with these massive companies to do very specific things. Even like the U-Draw, you know, that as much as that was a failure, it was still one of those things that Nintendo kind of backed. And while it wasn't, it didn't cost Nintendo anything, Nintendo did advertise it very heavily for Ubisoft. So the big thing I take out of all of this is that Nintendo is actually looking not only for new ideas and fresh ideas for Switch, for its technology and potential hardware expansions and add-ons and stuff. They are looking to the West for help here. They hired a company based, teamed up with, however you want to phrase it, with a company based in San Francisco in the United States to look into basically Silicon Valley probably at this point, and figure out who out there is trying to do cool new things with Switch and develop new technologies, so Nintendo can maybe partner with them, officially license this stuff, and release it out there. This is actually really, really cool. Again, Nintendo's never done anything like this. We don't know what it means. We don't know if, Joe Schmo in his basement putting together some really interesting, projector technology or something for Switch, or whatever the case may be. It could happen. Maybe something cool for VR applications with Switch comes out of this. Who knows? I mean, it's really creativity and putting the Switch and the Joy-Cons at the center of it all and figuring out what does Nintendo want to be interested in. This is really cool, and this does open up the idea for Switch to be a 10-plus year platform. If they're trying to look for all these additional applications and ways to keep the system relevant long haul, and looking towards the West to do it, which I thought is very, very interesting, instead of sticking to Japan like they would do traditionally. And the last story we're going to talk about today is someone who I didn't think we'd be talking about, because he's kind of turned out to be a crappy person, and maybe has always been a crappy person, but it's Billy Mitchell. So for those who don't know who Billy Mitchell is, I'm just going to give you the dirtiest possible recap I can. He is a world record holder in several different old school arcade video games. And it turns out that he cheated to get those records, or at least the evidence suggests that he cheated. And the reason that we're talking about this is because for Nintendo stuff specifically, he owned the records in Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong. We're talking about the old school arcade ones where you're climbing up, you need to save the lady, blah, 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 Jumpman, even before Mario was a thing. Well, he has those records stripped by Twin Galaxies, which is where he achieved those records, and the referee approved, and blah, 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 blah. Apparently the footage might have been doctored a little bit. The boards were not original boards. Potentially emulated stuff. This stuff has been floating out there for a while. Billy Mitchell has been accused of cheating for quite some time, and evidence has been sitting out there in Twin Galaxies, which is really the authority on the matter because they're the place where all of this took place and they keep track of these records, have finally removed his Donkey Kong records and several other records. There are a couple records they left alone because they didn't have enough evidence to verify that it was faked, although they obviously left a heavy hint, if all these other records he has are fake, this is probably fake. We just can't definitively prove it. But not only have they removed all his records, they have banned him. So what does that mean? It essentially means that Billy Mitchell can never, even if he wanted to do it legit, compete for the record again. It's just not possible. No one's going to take him seriously. No one's going to even be willing to do it. And this isn't surprising given that his referee was also a cheater who cheated for certain Atari records. So that referee was already a cheater helping another cheater get records. It's a giant mess, and there's a whole huge statement they put out about all the evidence and the reasons they removed various records, or why they left certain ones, but they're still skeptical, why they got rid of other ones, and explaining fully why they have banned Billy Mitchell for life from Twin Galaxies. I'm going to put a link in the description to all of it, because it would take me like 20 good minutes to go through all of the information with you guys. But yeah, it sucks. I mean, this came during an era where it wasn't as easy to catch people cheating, and it just sucks that this is what it came down to. You'd like to believe that people are good and honest people, especially when it comes to something that a lot of us view as sacred, and that is like video game records, speedrun records and score records, and like a lot of us view this stuff as impressive, high-skill stuff, and to find out that some of the, quote-unquote best to ever do it really weren't the best and cheated is just, it's sad. That's really all it is. So it kind of sucks because I remember growing up, I didn't watch video game stuff intensively, but whenever you paid attention to competitive video game scene when I was a child, I mean, I'm going on 32 here, Billy Mitchell was the name that always came up, right? Donkey Kong, Billy Mitchell was like synonymous, but it is what it is. Anyways, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Prime News. I am Nathaniel Rufflegents from Nintendo Prime. As always, there are links to all of the news pieces down in the description, and if you would like to go verify this stuff, I want to put this out here because I'm not going to name any specific YouTubers because there's a lot that fall into this category. But when I'm looking for news stories, And some people saw it on live stream earlier. I'm looking for news stories. Sometimes I do turn to YouTube because there are YouTubers that sometimes get news out before me. And when I'm going through their stuff and I'm listening to the report, and they say they got the news from this place, and then I go to the description and they don't have any link to the source. It kind of irks me a little bit, just a little bit. I'm not going to take up too much of your time on this, but I do feel like we as a community need to start spreading the word and start maybe holding some YouTubers accountable to say, hey, look, we really want the sources to this stuff, because right now all we're doing is just believing what you're saying without being able to verify what you're saying is actual news. And on top of this, it's actually good for YouTubers out there, if there's other YouTubers watching me, for you to put those links down there. Because you know what happens when you put source links in there? If certain pieces of news end up not being true in the future, it absolves you from some of the responsibility of those stories not being true, and instead hurts the sources of those stories. So say as an example, my Contra story with Konami today ends up being completely made up bullcrap. Well, guess what? I'm not the one on the line for it. It's Reset Era. So, it's just really annoying. And not just to me trying to find news, but even when I used to just consume news on YouTube, so many places do not put links in the description to their sources, and it's kind of frustrating. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's a little bit in poor taste. I'm not going to point out any specific YouTubers. I just feel like we can do better as a news reporting community. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, because it gives you a slightly better chance of seeing our content. Honestly, the best way to see our content is to comment down below, hit the like on the video, and that'll let YouTube know, hey, look, I kind of sort of interacted with this video. Show me more of his stuff. All right, that's it, folks. I'll catch you guys in the next one.